The unforgettable disappearance of Madeline Ashby, Helena, Montana, 2016. On a brittle December afternoon in 2016, 22-year-old Madeline Ashby vanished somewhere along U.S. Route 287 just outside Helena, Montana. No vehicle, no witnesses, no signs of struggle, just a silent sweep of wind over an empty shoulder road, and a life that seemed to evaporate into the cold. If you are new to this channel, hit that subscribe button as we dive deep into Madeline Ashby's disappearance. Helena isn't the kind of town that makes national news. Tucked into the foothills of the Rocky Mountains, it's the kind of place where people still wave to their neighbors, where gas stations double as coffee spots, and where the line between solitude and isolation is razor thin. Winters come early here. December feels like a drawn-out breath. It snowed earlier than usual that year. Locals remember it. They always do when something terrible breaks the pattern. Madeline Ashby had been living in Helena for over a year before missing. Originally from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, she relocated to Montana to study environmental sciences at Carroll College, a small Catholic liberal arts school known for its tight-knit community and rigorous academics. Friends describe her as thoughtful, reserved, but warm, a quiet presence with a deep appreciation for nature, poetry, and solitude. She often spent weekends hiking alone in the Helena National Forest, sketching landscapes in her worn leather notebook, or sitting at the same corner table in Fire Tower Coffee House, drinking herbal tea with a hint of honey. Her mother, Colleen Ashby, later told investigators that Madeline had seemed more introspective during the final months leading up to her disappearance. She'd withdrawn from a few classes that semester, citing personal reasons, and had stopped answering texts with her usual promptness. Her longtime friend and occasional roommate, Tara Bell, said Madeline had grown increasingly concerned about someone following her, but was hesitant to elaborate. She told me once, "I think I saw him again," by the post office. Tara recalled in an interview conducted in February 2017. I asked who she meant, and she said, "It doesn't matter, just someone from before." To this day, no one knows who she was referring to. Case file, MASH 2016-408B. Initial report filed December 14, 2016. Reporting officer, Deputy Caleb Mercer, Lewis and Clark County Sheriff's Office. Last confirmed sighting, December 12, 2016 for 4:43 p.m. Carter's General Store, East Helena, Montana. Status, active missing person. Notes, the subject purchased a granola bar, a map of Montana trail systems, and 2 bottles of water. The store clerk noted that she seemed distracted. The disappearance wasn't immediately treated as suspicious. After all, Madeline was known to take unannounced hikes. It wasn't until December 14th, 2 days after she was last seen, that Tara reported her missing. She returned to their shared apartment after a weekend in Missoula and found Madeline's bed still made. Her winter parka and hiking boots were gone, along with her phone, journal, and a canvas daypack. A light dusting of snow had fallen the night before. Detectives quickly realized any physical tracks she might have left were now long obscured. Using cell tower pings, authorities tracked her phone to Route 287, about 12 miles south of Helena, near Canyon Ferry Reservoir. The signal went dead at 5:16 p.m. on the evening of December 12th. Officers canvassed the area for 2 days but found no tire marks, dropped items, or signs of a vehicle breakdown or hitchhiking attempt. Helicopters were deployed, dogs were brought in, and volunteers scoured nearby woods and water lines. The temperature had dropped to 17 degrees the night she vanished, so search and rescue teams knew the clock was ticking. Nothing. Search log, December 16, 2016. Coordinates searched: 46.5131 degrees north, 111.7082 degrees west of 46.4980 degrees north, 111.6956 degrees west. Findings: 1 cigarette butt, non-matching DNA. Torn piece of fabric, determined not to be clothing material. Unidentified boot print, partially obscured, likely older than the disappearance. What troubled investigators most was the lack of any credible sightings. Route 287 isn't a major highway, but it's not completely desolate. It's a standard route for truckers and locals heading south toward Townsend or north into Helena. Surveillance footage from the few gas stations and stops in the area showed no sign of Madeline or her 2001 Subaru Outback. The vehicle was never recovered. It's like she drove into the mountains and the road swallowed her whole, said Deputy Mercer in a 2018 podcast interview. No clues, no note, no struggle, just gone. For a time, suspicions turned toward Madeline's personal life. Some speculated she may have taken her own life or staged her disappearance. Others wondered if she had been trying to leave behind something, or someone. Her social media accounts had been dormant for weeks before her disappearance. Her journal, typically filled with meticulous entries, stopped abruptly mid-sentence on December 10th. The last words read, "There's something about the silence here. It doesn't feel empty. It feels watched." A background check revealed no criminal history, financial trouble, or known enemies. However, a single odd detail stood out. 6 months before she moved to Helena, Madeline had filed a temporary restraining order against an unnamed individual in Kootenai County, Idaho. The filing was sealed, and despite repeated requests from law enforcement, the individual's name was never publicly released. According to Idaho courts, this was a clerical error. The record was lost. Her parents, understandably devastated, offered a $25,000 reward for information. Billboards went up. Flyers were handed out in grocery stores and rest stops. The case briefly made headlines in regional papers. But as the snow deepened and the months passed, leads dwindled. By spring, the case had gone cold. In June 2017, a local fisherman discovered a faded trail map tucked into the brush near the west edge of Canyon Ferry Lake. It matched the kind sold at Carter's General Store. Forensic analysis found a partial fingerprint, which was later matched to Madeline, but no signs of blood, DNA, or additional items were nearby. Investigators believed she may have stopped at the lake on the day she vanished, but what she did next, and whether she encountered someone, remains unknown. Over the years, rumors have persisted. A few claim to have seen her hitchhiking near Great Falls in early 2017. Others believe she may have become lost in the vast wilderness, her body claimed by snow, animals, or water. Some locals whispered darker theories. About a transient man who camped near the reservoir that winter, about a trucker who went off the grid shortly after December 12th, or about the so-called Watcher of the Woods, an old regional legend used to explain disappearances in Montana's backcountry. Authorities have officially ruled out foul play, suicide, and voluntary disappearance, but only due to lack of evidence. Case update, December 2021. Status, cold case. FBI file opened. Case MT, ASHBY 2016-98Q. Notes: the Ashby family voluntarily submitted DNA to the National Missing Persons Database, NamUs. The car has not been recovered, and there have been no confirmed sightings since 2016. Today, the disappearance of Madeline Ashby remains one of Montana's most perplexing unsolved cases. A bright, capable, thoughtful young woman disappeared in broad daylight on a well-traveled route with no sign of struggle, physical evidence, or apparent motive. To this day, her mother still drives Route 287 every December 12th, placing a single daisy near the last known cell tower ping, a quiet act of remembrance for her daughter who vanished without explanation. Some believe the answers are still out there, buried beneath years of silence and snow. And some believe the truth may be darker than anyone is ready to admit. The truth isn't always buried in the woods or locked in someone's silence when someone vanishes. Sometimes it's scattered in plain sight, hidden in small details, wrong assumptions, and the ticking minutes that slip unnoticed. December 12, 2016 began as an ordinary Monday in Helena, Montana. Wind-chilled air settled over the valley, carrying a sharp edge that hinted at the snowstorm forecasted for the evening. The sun barely broke through a dense gray overcast, casting the city in a flat, washed-out light. Nothing about that day seemed remarkable until it became unforgettable. 6:47 a.m., apartment 2B, South Rodney Street. Madeline Ashby was seen by neighbor Ronald Dirks, who lived across the hall, leaving her shared apartment. He described her wearing a dark green coat, faded jeans, and hiking boots. She carried a canvas day pack and looked alert, but maybe distracted. Dirk said she nodded to him in the hallway, but didn't speak, a departure from her usual brief morning greetings. A later review of the building's exterior security cam confirmed her departure at 6:47 a.m. She headed south, walking toward where her silver 2001 Subaru Outback typically parked. 7:12 a.m. gas and go station, Lyndale Avenue. Surveillance footage shows Madeline fueling up at pump 3. She paid inside with a debit card. The clerk said she didn't make eye contact and declined a receipt. Footage shows her glancing twice over her shoulder toward the road. This moment raised questions early in the investigation. Detectives later interviewed the clerk again, who said, "It was like she was waiting for someone to follow her. She didn't look scared, more like she was thinking something over." 8:03 a.m. Carter's General Store, East Helena, located 15 minutes east of Helena's downtown. Carter's is a hybrid convenience and supply store popular with hikers and hunters. Madeline purchased 2 bottles of water, a granola bar, and a folded Montana Trail System map. Store clerk Casey Morgan later told investigators. She asked if the gates to Duck Creek Trail were still open. I told her they were, but the storm might hit early. She didn't seem fazed. Paid in cash, exact change. A receipt timestamp in surveillance video confirmed interaction. What stood out, however, was a map. Friends noted that Madeline already owned a trail map, marked and folded in her hiking gear. Why buy another? 9:24 a.m., cell tower ping. Duck Creek Access Road. Madeline's phone briefly connected to a cell tower servicing Duck Creek Trailhead, a remote area east of Canyon Ferry Lake. Authorities confirmed that 2 hunters parked along the same dirt road saw her Subaru. One of them, Dean Wexley, stated, "We saw a silver Subaru pass us heading up the road. Single driver. She didn't wave or stop. Just kept driving. That road doesn't go anywhere fast. Not after the snow starts." This was the last confirmed sighting of Madeline and her vehicle. 10:02 a.m. Phone goes dark. At precisely 10:02 a.m., Madeline's phone lost all signal. It never reconnected to any tower. Later analysis found no outgoing calls or texts after 7:16 a.m. that morning. The phone's GPS was disabled, and no geotag data could be recovered from any app. Authorities believe the phone was either powered off manually or destroyed. No phone has ever been recovered. 12:30 p.m., missed class at Carroll College. Madeline was enrolled in an afternoon field seminar on regional ecosystems, scheduled that day at 1 p.m. Her absence was noted but not considered alarming. According to campus policy, students weren't flagged as missing unless gone for more than 48 hours. 4:30 p.m., snow begins to fall. By late afternoon, the leading edge of the winter front rolled in over Lewis and Clark County. Search teams later noted that any physical evidence along the Duck Creek Trail would have been covered by snowfall by 6 p.m. 6:48 p.m., Tara Bell returns home. Madeline's roommate, Tara, arrived back from Missoula and assumed Madeline had gone hiking or to a study session. She noted that Madeline's laptop was still on the dining table, but her phone, boots, and parka were gone. She wasn't alarmed, yet December 13, 2016, concern grows. Tara attempted to reach Madeline via text and phone throughout the morning. She received no response. By afternoon, she contacted Madeline's mother, Madeline Ashby, who confirmed she hadn't spoken to her daughter since December 10th. A missing person report was officially filed with the Lewis and Clark County Sheriff's Office at 8:14 p.m. December 14th to 17, 2016, search and investigation initiated. Command post established, Duck Creek Access Road. Units deployed, LCSO ground units. 2 K-9 teams, Bozeman PD Lone. Montana search and rescue helicopter. Montana Highway Patrol, alert issued statewide for silver 2001 Subaru Outback. Despite frigid conditions, teams combed the Duck Creek area by foot and air. There were no vehicles, footprints, or dropped items. Search dogs caught and lost a scent near a bend in the Trailhead Road, 2.1 miles from the main parking area. Evidence collected. Single torn corner of the trail map. Found lodge and brush, confirmed match. Unidentified tire tracks, likely older than December 12th. Cigarette but tested, Male DNA. No match in national database. Search crews were pulled back on December 18th due to worsening conditions. The lake was partially frozen, and the terrain was too unstable to continue without heavy equipment. Family and public reaction. Madeline Ashby arrived in Helena on December 15th. She worked closely with authorities and handed over Madeline's notebooks, passwords, and relevant correspondence. In a press conference, she pleaded, "Madeline wouldn't disappear like this. She isn't reckless. If she needed space, she would have told me. Something happened out there." The case generated local media interest, with regional outlets like KTVH Helena News and the Montana Standard running daily updates. National coverage was more limited, brief NBC and Dateline Online mentions, but no large-scale attention. Emerging theories and local rumors. As weeks passed, theories began to take shape. Voluntary disappearance. A handful of online users suggested she staged her disappearance, citing her withdrawn behavior and possible restraining order in Idaho. Accidental death. Some believe she became disoriented in the forest and succumbed to the elements. Third-party involvement. Others suspected abduction, possibly by someone familiar with the backroads or the trail systems. Authorities noted the lack of struggle and the vehicle's absence as highly unusual. Red herring one. The drifter, a hiker, reported a man camping illegally near Duck Creek in late December. The man became agitated when asked about the missing girl and left abruptly the next morning. Rangers later found his abandoned tent, but there was no sign of the man. His prints didn't match those found near the trailhead, and he was never identified. Red herring 2, the car in Butte. On January 2nd, 2017, a silver Subaru Outback matching Madeline's make and model was spotted in Butte, 65 miles south. Local police located the car within hours, but the plates didn't match. The driver, a 63-year-old woman, had no connection to the case. Unusual note in her journal. Investigators found an entry dated December 10th, 2016, written 2 days before Madeline vanished. Among Madeline's belongings, it read, "If something happens, it won't be random. I hope someone asked the right questions." The page was torn out at the bottom, as if a second part had been removed or destroyed. Ongoing theories. The unknown watcher. At least 3 individuals, 2 from Helena and 1 from Townsend, have come forward since 2018 claiming to have seen a woman matching Madeline's description walking along remote backroads over the past several years. None of these sightings have been confirmed, and none included Madeline's vehicle. One local theory, mainly circulated in hushed tones, suggests that someone familiar with the terrain and with Madeline may have lured her into the wilderness under false pretenses. The restraining order filed months earlier in Idaho continues to raise questions. Still, the individual's name has never been released publicly due to sealed court documents and a clerical data loss in Kootenai County's archives. 5 years later, silence still reigns. As of 2021, the Lewis and Clark County Sheriff's Office still lists the Ashby case as an open investigation, a file labeled MASH. 2016-408 sits quietly in the cold case archive, its contents incomplete and its answers elusive. Deputy Mercer, now retired, once said in a private interview, "The way everything just stopped at 10:02, it was like the whole day just shut down. That doesn't happen by accident." Some believe Madeline lost her way that day. Others think she found something. Someone she wasn't supposed to. The clues are too few, the silence is too wide, and the gaps too intentional. But then, in April 2022, a Forest Service worker found something strange inside a remote fire lookout tower, 12 miles beyond where the search grid had ever reached. Inside, wedged under a loose floorboard, was an object wrapped in flannel. Some disappearances leave behind a clear trail, footprints, surveillance, a confession. Others leave behind something colder, an unfinished sentence, a blinking voicemail, a car that never turns up. In the case of 24-year-old Madeline Ashby, what remains is not just mystery, but a haunting sense that something or someone is still out there watching. Madeline walked into the remote Montana wilds on December 12, 2016. She has not been seen since. With no body, no confirmed sighting, and only scattered clues, theories have multiplied over the years. Some are grounded in forensic patterns. Others are speculative, whispered across Reddit threads, or murmured at local bars near Helena. Each theory tries to fill in the empty spaces, but no single answer has ever been honestly held. Let's walk through the three most discussed possibilities. Theory 1. Abduction by a known individual. Working hypothesis. LE3 to 426 target abduction, involving prior connection to the victim. The first and perhaps most troubling possibility is that Madeline was abducted. What gives weight to this theory is its circumstantial alignment with the available evidence. A complete disappearance without struggle, a vehicle that was never found, and her ominous journal note written 2 days before she vanished. If something happens, it won't be random. Investigators with the Lewis and Clark County Sheriff's Office pursued several leads tied to people from Madeline's past, most notably a man connected to a sealed restraining order she filed in Kootenai County, Idaho. In early 2016, the records were partially lost due to a clerical error, but phone logs indicate that Madeline received 2 block calls from an Idaho-based area code the day before she disappeared. Her phone was turned off manually at 10:02 a.m., an oddly specific time. That moment stands as a black hole in the timeline. Either she did it herself or someone else did. No tire impressions, footprints, or signs of struggle were recovered from the Duck Creek area. However, one possible clue is a cigarette, but found near the last location, where dogs tracked her scent. DNA from the cigarette belonged to an unknown male with no matches in the national database. Former Deputy Mercer believed it might have been a dump site where someone parked and waited, or someone else met her. According to her roommate, Tara Bell, Madeline had been increasingly private in the weeks leading up to her disappearance. She kept saying she wanted to get something off her chest. Tara told the Montana Standard later. She never got the chance. Did Madeline meet someone out there? Was she coerced or tricked into thinking the meeting would bring closure? Perhaps she thought she could handle it. The biggest mystery, where is the car? Her silver 2001 Subaru Outback has never been seen again, not on traffic cams or resale markets. Despite bolos issued across 3 states, an entire vehicle vanished. The abduction theory hinges on that disappearance. Vehicles don't drive into lakes or forests and erase themselves. If someone had helped, they might have known the terrain. They might have been familiar with the time window, the incoming storm and the silence that followed. Some say the car is in Canyon Ferry Lake, while others believe it's buried on private land surrounding Helena National Forest. The FBI briefly joined the case in 2018, but withdrew due to a lack of federal jurisdiction. If this theory is correct, Madeline may have willingly walked into a trap designed by someone she once knew and feared. Theory 2, voluntary disappearance or suicide. Alternate hypothesis, LE3-426 be self-initiated vanishing, possible depressive episode, or suicidal ideation. On the surface, Madeline Ashby was stable. She was enrolled at Carroll College, active in environmental groups, and close with her mother, but not everything aligned with that image. Friends said she had grown increasingly introspective in the fall of 2016. Her social media presence diminished sharply after October. Her last Instagram post was a landscape photo of Duck Creek, captioned only, "When the trail becomes a test." It was posted 5 days before she vanished. A secondary journal entry, dated December 4th, read, "The weight is getting harder to carry. I don't know if I'm preparing for something or saying goodbye." That single line has led some to theorize that Madeline may have chosen to disappear, or worse, to take her own life. But there are contradictions. She had just renewed her lease. She was in good academic standing. Her roommate saw no overt signs of depression severe enough to suggest suicidal intent. Still, logistical considerations suggest intent. She used cash at the general store. Out of character, she purchased a second trail map, even though she already owned one. Some believe she used a new one to mark a route and destroy the evidence. If Madeline had decided to vanish, the dense wilderness around Helena would have been a logical place. The Duck Creek trail system spans tens of miles, with disused fire roads, abandoned mining paths, and shallow ravines. A person could lie hidden there for months or years without detection. But again, nobody, no gear, and critically, no Subaru. One local search and rescue leader stated, "If she walked into the woods intending to die, we'd have found something. A piece of clothing. Bones. The terrain buries many things, but not everything." The voluntary theory raises as many questions as it attempts to answer. If she chose to leave her life behind, why leave no note to her mother? No farewell? No trail? And who turned off the phone if she didn't plan to return? Theory 3. Supernatural or paranormal twist. Unclassified civilians' online discussion boards. Anomalous disappearance with potential high strangeness elements. This theory occupies a murky realm of speculation, driven not by hard evidence, but by patterns that seem to echo across decades of unexplained vanishings. Montana, like many regions rich in wilderness, has its share of strange stories. The so-called vanishing triangle near the Bitterroot Range, where at least 7 people have gone missing under unexplained circumstances since 1992. Duck Creek itself sits only 20 miles east of one such cluster. David Paulides, author of the Missing 411 series, once called a Helena backcountry, statistically rare for disappearances, but unusually silent when they happen. In this vein, some online sleuths and locals have drawn connections to displacement events, sudden disappearances in areas with poor GPS coverage, electromagnetic anomalies, or high geological activity. In addition, the discovery of the Fire Lookout Tower in 2022 has stirred further questions. The object found beneath the floorboard was a tattered scrap of fabric that tested positive for Madeline's DNA, along with a partial fingerprint that did not match any person on record, not hers. The tower was located 12.6 miles beyond where her scent was last tracked. There was no sign of forced entry, no food remains, and no evidence of prolonged human presence. The tower itself had been sealed for repairs since 2015. How did the fabric get there? Was someone using the tower as a base? Or is it possible that Madeline passed through that location briefly before vanishing again? Local legend tells of the Vale, a narrow patch of forest near Duck Creek where compasses spin and animals refuse to pass. These stories have no basis in science, but they persist. Hunters whisper about the hush that falls before someone gets lost. Search teams often report hearing voices, only to find no one. It's easy to dismiss as imagination, until it happens to you, the silence that follows. 7 years have passed since Madeline Ashby vanished. No suspects have ever been charged. No body, vehicle, or confirmed evidence of her fate has ever emerged. Only the quiet unraveling of leads and the memory of a young woman whose presence still lingers. Each theory attempts to explain what the facts alone cannot. If she was taken, who did it and how? If she walked away, why has no trace ever surfaced? If she met something unknown, would we even ask the right questions? Her mother, Madeline Ashby, still returns to Helena every December. She leaves a red scarf on the Duck Creek Trail mark each time, a silent signal, a tether to a daughter lost in shadow. In her last televised interview, Colleen said, "I don't care what the answer is anymore. I want to know she didn't suffer. I want to know if someone tried to find her." And maybe that's the final piece of this story, not resolution, but the act of continuing to search for answers, for meaning, for that faint echo left behind when someone walks out of our world and into the unknown. So, what do you think happened to Madeline Ashby? Was it a tragic accident or something far more sinister? Please comment and subscribe to the channel for more content about horrors and missing cases.